Hello, Spans or sports fans, and welcome to Sports. I'm your host, Nick Youngers. Today we're going to be talking about sports. Well, the NBA just got back from break, MLB spring training just started, and NFL free agency has yet to begin. So we're going to talk about hockey this week. Now, I know I'm not one who's shy of showing his personal bias on this show. But in the interest of being impartial, I've decided that I won't tell you what my favorite hockey team is. I also think it'll add a little bit of a mystique. There's no Wisconsin hockey team, so how are you to know? Anyway, I figured we'd talk about some of the bigger stories in hockey and maybe even give a few mid-season predictions. Now, I think the biggest story in hockey so far this year is the Vegas Golden Knights. An expansion team in its first year of existence is one of the best teams in the league. Now, I do believe that ESPN has them at number one on their power rankings right now. Actually, I know they have them at number one because I looked it up before recording. And it's weird. It's almost like if you take a bunch of the other team's best players and put them on one team, they become the best team. They've already set the record for most wins by a team in its inaugural season, and they have a very realistic shot at winning the Stanley Cup, which I almost don't want to happen just for the sake of Vegas fans. Now, of course, it'd be great to win the Cup. It's always great to win the Cup. But if you win the Stanley Cup in your first season, every year after that you don't win the Cup is going to be extra disappointing. You can't set the bar too high too quickly. Golden Knights, you're a great team. And I love that you've given the people of Vegas something to rally behind. But for their sake, lose. Another team that's been interesting to follow this year is the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, everyone gave up on them, and somewhat deservingly so. I mean, they lost 10 games in a row. That doesn't bode well for any team in any sport. But they immediately followed that up by winning 6 games in a row, and then have had a bunch of winning streaks here and there. And they've worked their way back into the playoff picture, only to have their starting goalie injured. And their backup goalie injured. The hockey gods are showing the Flyers no brotherly love. But they just traded for Peter Mrazek, who I like. In fact, he was actually my favorite player on my favorite team before Detroit traded him. Whoops. Mystique over. I'm a Red Wings fan. Anyway, yes, Mrazek has been consistent, but keep in mind that at their best playing, Detroit's defense has been mediocre all season. And when Peter's on, he's on. We'll have to see how he adjusts once he starts playing for the Flyers, but I think Philly will be okay. Unlike Detroit. Look, it's time for Ken Holland to retire and time for the Red Wings to try and steal Steve Yzerman back from Tampa Bay. As for my mid-season's Knicks pick, I'm going to say the Stanley Cup will be Boston versus Winnipeg, solely based on the fact that those are two teams playing really well that I'm indifferent towards. There are a lot of teams that are playing well that, although not my favorite team, I do like them, and I don't want to give them the Knicks pick curse. So, Boston and Winnipeg. And, alright, Spans, that's going to be it for this week. Do you agree that Vegas winning it all would actually be bad in the long term? And who do you think is going to be playing in the Stanley Cup come this summer? Let me know down in the comments and feel free to criticize me on social media. And, of course, be sure to like this video and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Welcome to Sports and Channel 804. I'm Nick Youngers, and always remember, have a nice day, and go Brewers!
We don't have anything for the end.
Okay. Well, don't use this. Don't use this. But you, because I don't want me saying this. Do you think it's bad that I don't use that? Actually, don't stop recording. Don't stop recording.